Hi guys, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be looking at the KasAxe and the potential to actually make one in the future. So this is kind of a accumulation of both the content on my channel, which is mainly Kaspa, Lithium, and then the Bitaxe content. And I was thinking the other day, and I was having some talks with Decentral Tech maybe 2 months ago, where I asked him one of the spaces that he was in if it was potentially possible to have a Kaspa chip within a Bitaxe, and subsequently any kind of chip from a Bitmain ASIC, I believe, could be possible to do this with, but obviously Kaspa is the next biggest ASIC mineable coin, I believe, unless Litecoin is still above it, which I don't think it is right now, in terms of how much hash rate is on the network. I think this video is more going to be of a, message to the community that maybe are interested in Kaspa coin, but also interested in Bitaxe content. We were in a live stream the other day talking to Kroopman Tech about it, and he said that he was interested in it as well, so I thought I'd just go over kind of the profitability, what it looks like. I have done some calculations, and it is kind of good news for Kaspa coin, and we'll get into the reasons why it should kind of be the next focus, I think, within the community to kind of get this ball rolling. So this video is more of that, getting the ball rolling on this for potentially later on in the Rust rewrite, and we'll get kind of into that as we go on in the video. So the main thought behind it is obviously you have these Bitaxe boards, or any other iteration of Bitaxe, like the NerdAxe or something like that, where you have a Bitmain ASIC chip in here for Bitcoin mining, obviously. Now I don't know the size difference between the chips, so I don't know if it's just easy to solder one in and then program it. It obviously does need programming from somebody, so I don't have the technical ability to do that, but I'm sure people out there do have the technical ability. And it'd be very good to see if we could have like a DIY version of this, where you buy the Bitaxe, but you insert a Kaspa ASIC chip here, and then maybe you load on some software or firmware that actually changes it from a Bitaxe to a KasAxe. So hopefully there's not too much of a transition between the two, because the main framework is already out there. I believe it would just be the algorithm switching over, unless the chips are slightly different in size and you can't fit them on. From looking at the chips here, it's more of a square, whereas the S21 chips are more of a rectangle. So I don't know the intricacies behind that. Maybe it will require a different board with a slightly smaller chip size that you see here. But let's get into some calculations and kind of why I think this is the next step for the Bitaxe project, or just those affiliated or an extension of this project. Because we have these new chips that are for the KS5 or KS5 Pro. This is using the BM2382AA chips, and we have a hash board here. Now I believe that the KS5s have 3 hash boards within them, so this is only an example of one. When we're looking here, we can see how many chips we have, so we can divide that by the terahash and the watts to kind of give us a profitability figure of what one of these would look like on the network right now. Obviously, things can change in the next couple of months, and new chips can come out and new stuff can happen on the network where the hash rate spikes up. But ultimately, the 10 blocks per second is going to help with this, and we'll kind of get into that in a little bit. So after looking here, I believe we have 93 or 92 chips on the whole board. So this is only for one hash board, and I believe that they have 3. So it'd be 92 times by 3, which would give us 276 of these chips on a full ASIC miner. So that's the full miner, and then we can take the hash rate from that and divide it into however many chips there are to give us basically the hash rate of one chip and the watts of one chip at the time. So we go here, we have the KS5 currently. I know that these chips work for the KS5 and the KS5 Pro. The KS5 Pro, I believe, just has extra chips on it. So we're going to go based off the KS5 right now. So the calculation that we're going to do is we're going to convert 20 terahash into megahash. So we have that here, 20 terahash gives you, I believe that's 20 million megahash. And then we divide 20 million by the amount of chips on the board, so 276 overall. That's split between 3 boards. And that gives us a hash rate of 72,000 megahash. And then we just copy this figure and we put it into the hash rate calculator. So the reason we've converted to megahash is because hash rate NO only has mega hash for Kaspa calculations. I don't really know why that is, but that's why we're converting it into mega hash. And then we do the same calculation with watts. So we come here, instead of this 20 million, it's 3000, as we can see back on the KS5, so 3000 watts. We do that calculation, click enter. So for each chip, it's taken up 10.86, which will round up to basically 11 watts. And so right here, we have the hash rate for one chip and the power for one chip. Now I'm going to keep the miner and pool fees the same. And then when I click enter and calculate, that's going to give us the figures basically for the profitability, revenue, and the power costs. Remember, this is at 10 cents per kilowatt hour, so if you have higher, that might be different. But overall, we have a revenue of 10 cents with a power cost of 3 cents and a profitability of 8 cents, which actually works out way better than the Bitaxe right now, because the Bitaxe is technically profitable at very, very low power rates. But this one is profitable at around 10 cents per kilowatt hour. I believe it would go all the way up to maybe 13 cents per kilowatt hour, would still give you profits as well, which is a good thing for this project if it ever gets, moving on the ball. It means that this miner is considered profitable. Even though it's only 8 cents, that's still relatively good profitability for one chip. Obviously, there is going to be evolutions of this as the hash rate runs up and as the new mining chips come out as well. But you can see we actually have chances of finding a block is 0.702% with one block every 142 days. I know that seems like a lot, but it's way better than the Bitaxe blocks right now, because we've only hit one, and I believe that there's verified 3,000 sold just based on the public pool numbers, and then maybe an extra couple of them on the side that haven't been sold. So this means that you have an actual chance of finding a block on the Kaspa network with one of these if they do eventually come out. Remember, this is at current hash rate and current network difficulty and current chips that we're using from Bitmain, so it could change over time. If you're looking at this in the future, there might be an evolution of how far down the line we are in terms of hash rate and in terms of ASIC mining chips. So that's relatively good from just one chip, which would mean one Kaspa block every 142 days. But the big thing that comes in and that I want to talk about is when the Rust update comes in. So this is the testnet 11 for 10 blocks per second. Currently we're on 1 blocks per second. So this means that the chances of finding a block when Rust does come in, and I've made videos previously that state that this is probably going to come in within the next 6 months. So we have the Crescendo hard fork, and then a couple of months after that they are going to introduce it, I believe, and the time frame is around 6 months for all of this to come in. This means that if we don't get new iterations of chips, it still might be very good to hit solo blocks on one of these if it does get moving. So currently at 1 block per second you have a chance of 142 days, but when it does go over to 10 blocks per second you're going to have a chance of 14.2 days. So around every 2 weeks, you'll find a block using one of these KasAxe, Bitaxe / miners. And then further, you might actually have more upgrades to the network as we go down the line. I know that they have proposed 100 blocks per second, and we are going to work up to that. But if it was, let's just say 20 blocks per second, and it went really well, that means that this figure would be reduced down to only 7 days to hit 1 block. Remember, current network hash rate, all of that. As you increase those blocks per second, solo mining for Kaspa coin gets very, very easy with low amounts of hash rate. So this is a very low amount of hash rate, and you can still have the possibility when it does go over to 10 blocks per second to hit a block within every 2 weeks, which is actually really good for the network because it decentralizes it a lot more. It kind of transforms the mining landscape where anyone can hit blocks. Normally on Bitcoin mining, it's, the top pools that hit blocks, and you need a very, very high amount of hash rate to actually hit blocks frequently on the network, because there's only a certain amount of blocks per day. Most of them are taken up by the mining pools, as I said. So if we get the ball rolling on this KasAxe, we can further decentralize the network and also spread out the hash rate a lot more. Plus you have an actual incentive to mine on one of these, because the Bitaxe, the incentive is basically playing the lottery. But with the KasAxe, it's not really a lottery, because the chances of hitting a block is actually very, very high because there's more blocks on the network per second. So this video, as I said, is just mainly just to get the ball rolling. If anybody has any ideas I'm willing to put some funding into this if people have good ideas and they can code it in, and then potentially we can get the ball rolling on this and more people can come in and start to develop for this. I'd like to see how it works out in terms of prototypes, stuff like that, and I'd be willing to be heavily involved within that movement, and as I said, fund a little bit of that as well on the side. So if anyone's got any experience with the Bitaxe or Nerdaxe or anything like that, coding experience, that they want to transfer over to this, you can leave a comment and I'll try to get in touch. You can send me a DM or you can get in contact with the business email on the YouTube channel. So let me know your thoughts in the comments if you want to see one of these. I definitely do within the next 6 months. It would be great timing within the next 6 months. So when Kaspa comes onto 10 blocks per second, it'd be perfect timing where we can further, give people the chance to hit Kaspa blocks and also make a little bit of profitability on the side. Anyway, let me know your thoughts. Make sure you like the video and subscribe for more content like this.